internet. Welcome back to Fractured Thinking, episode maybe 111, maybe 112. Depends on if I choose to upload the one on competition and ego. Today, I'm talking about frustration a little bit. There's a thought I had this morning, and I want to paint, but I want to also see if I can kind of talk while I do this. For those who care, briefly, I'm using a Winsor Newton ink. We're going to do a value study. I'm not a good artist, so don't have any high expectations, please. The goal is just to try and have fun and, in a way, expose myself to sharing the results despite, I don't know, not being comfortable with it. Trying a slight curvilinear perspective for space. Trying to create a focus on this character here, Death, and trying to do it in ink. So we'll see how this goes. I think I kind of got good at, playing just like a random game. And I guess talking about it. So I'm curious if I can do similar painting. We'll go ahead and get my water cup sorted. I guess frustration is it's a feeling that I'm familiar with. And it's, to me, I don't want to say negative, because I don't think any emotion is particularly negative or positive. But I think I've created an enemy out of it a lot. And that's not, the way to go. I think in the past, when I have felt frustrated, it has led to a loss of control. And that bothers me a lot. Also, I'm just making sure my audio settings are good, because these changed the other day. Yeah, okay. We're on 2 audio tracks. And then also, is the video bitrate the same? I don't know. If it looks like garbage, I'm sorry. But what counts is that we have the audio. Audio tracks 1 and 2. Mic is on 2. Let's turn that off on 2. All right. I don't think that other one's recording anyway. So, I don't know. It's going to be a little too dark, I think. But I guess my first goal is to just wash this out. Very dark. But yeah, I think villainize is a good word. I've always seemed to villainize the sense of frustration. Actually, I should create something that's white. Well, too late. Is it too late? I forgot. There's no... if you don't have contrast, there's no point to this. I will figure this out in a second. Maybe I can just leave... I'll put something in the corner here. How about that? That'll work. A little improvisation, you know what I mean? But yeah, I've always villainized frustration. I'm not entirely certain if there's a reason. I mean, I guess as I was saying a moment ago, but like the idea that frustration can kind of just take over for me is really combined with the idea of like a loss of control. And that scares me. I think in a lot of ways I yearn for control. I'm just thinking a little fire here, you know what I mean? This will have to be the lightest part of the composition by default now. We'll make this a little like thingy. A little hearth. This will be a black and white attempt. We want this to be our darkest element. That's a little too dark, but that's okay. I'll blend it out. Oh, you know what? I should have waited until this dried. This is me, and water media and patience don't really get along right now. Also, hot press, I'm not the biggest fan. Do you see it's like becoming grainy here? Maybe the bitrate sucks. Anyway, frustration, and I just when I get frustrated, I feel like I lose control. I think, but I think that's a very like physical response in a way. Because I think, if you're playing Mario Kart, right? Very relatable, very relatable. It's easy to get frustrated at like just the most generic CPUs. Apologies in advance for my sniffling. I think I don't know. It's the morning. Whatever. You get very frustrated at even CPUs, and you can like get angry. Excuse me. It's like you can get angry about that. And that's where I'm like, no, frustration is good. There's no rational reason to get frustrated at, in short, a video game. But also, I kind of like how this is like turning into like overfolded fabric. At least that's what I'm seeing. I found that so much of art has been like, just put shit down and then just kind of see what comes out of it. So like an overflowing robe instead of a normal cloak. Anyway, yeah, like you yell and scream when you get mad at a video game. Now you kind of got to sit and wait for this to dry just a little bit. And I personally hate that feeling. I think there are. But I don't like it because I attempt to rationalize it, right? Like Game Grumps is a good example where like Aaron, if you don't know the Game Grumps, these two guys play games and they're pretty funny. I used to watch them all the time, and I still go back and watch compilations every now and again. And Aaron is like known for like getting really, really mad, and it's funny, but also that's how he vents his frustration, I guess. With a game, it could be for whatever reason. There's no music in this video. I'm listening to Dawn Over the Ruins by Wuthering Waves on Spotify. If you want to listen to something as you listen to this show. Anyway, and so it's like that's a normal venting of frustration, I think. And in a way, I envy that, but it's like, I don't know why I don't like the feeling. I'm trying to figure out how I can effectively do this without butchering this. I'm going to let the top dry here for a minute because I want to give the space some depth with some line. And I guess the reason I envy that is because I'm like, there's no reason to be getting mad at a video game right now. Right? Okay, Yoshi hit me with a green shell out of sheer luck, and then Baby Mario threw a blue shell. God diddly darn. Or the water, I forgot to put the water down, or forgot to let the water dry before I tried to paint this in. I do like the effect though, actually. I'm kind of vibing with it. Happy accidents, right? And that to me is just irrational because you can't control that. I mean, you especially can't control a random CPU. If you mod the game, you could. But even if you're playing with other people, it's like you can't control. I mean, this is a very stoic concept, right? But you can't control what other people do. You can only control, and this is where the stoicism comes in, you can only control how you react. And I think that had far more of a profound impact on me than I kind of cared to admit, if that makes sense. Where I get frustrated at a video game or drawing, or most prevalently recently myself. I think one of the more recent ones is I was at jiu-jitsu the other day, and I need someone in the face twice. The first one was like, oh shit, that was kind of hard. The second one was like I clipped the chin. But that does not happen frequently. I think what really made me annoyed at myself was like, what happened here? And that's for better or for worse. Often, in situations like this, maybe even for worse. Okay, this should be almost parallel, but oops. Okay, this brush is getting a little not flat. I'm trying to minimize my use of tools because I think creativity exists within whatever limitations you choose to put it within. I really backed away for that sniffle. We'll see if that. I'm sorry. Anyway, and that made me really frustrated with myself because I really don't like hurting people. I mean, yeah, I'm in a combat sport, but the knees are not a part of jiu-jitsu, and I'm even more upset that it was the injuries. It wasn't a severe injury. He's fine. Still annoying, but I've been kneed as well. Like, it's part of the sport, but I don't know. That's just not me. Trying to establish space, not thinking too much about it. Kind of just seeing it happen. I kind of like talking through about something else because I'm like using the rational side of my brain to rationalize these emotions while just letting my kind of the rest of me move, I guess. Thinking in value is very new to me. Granted, all art is new to me. Anyway, and what I'll do is this doorway is going to be the darkest thing. So as long as we're dry here, I'm going to do that. But yeah, so that loss of control really frustrated me. And I didn't love it. I think in a way I was trying to, how do I put this? Convey or like bring in an emotion of competitive spirit. And with that, I got kind of locked into this, if I lose, it's very bad mentality-ish. I'll have to blend that kind of later, I guess. This scythe is going to be lighter, definitely. This will be an interesting thing to do. We'll start here. I can always expand the dark, but I cannot take the dark away. This is just pure ink. No washing happening here. And that, again, it was like a loss of control, and it annoyed me. And so, I guess it's not like I was going in thinking be competitive, right? I was not going intense. Like, I was not losing control necessarily. I mean, I guess objectively I was, but it's not because I went in like, all right, I'm gonna go all in on this round. No, that was not the mentality I entered with, and that is never the mentality anyone should ever enter a regular class role with. And that's, kind of what I was talking about with competition and ego. If that last episode ever goes up, it was the second skiing one. And that sense of frustration is very prevalent. It was kind of prevalent this morning, where I was lying on my couch. I had gotten up later than I wanted to, and I was slow to start. And it's been like that for a little while. I think mornings, my body does not like waking up early in the morning, and my mind does. I think when there are moments like this where before work I can just paint. Or do a creative endeavor. When I was thumbnailing this, I was watching TV, and I don't know, I returned to the TV world, but like these were the thumbnails, right? This is what I decided, and this helped the curvilinear. And when I was on the couch, I just was like, what if I think frustration is often what gets me going. I know in the one jiu-jitsu competition that I medaled in, I guess I've medaled twice, but the second medal was because there was only two of us. And I got silver. So in that one I medaled in, I think my skill was there. I can't necessarily deny that. However, I think because I had just lost the previous bracket, I just got really frustrated. And it was like that frustration was almost in control. Not completely, but I'm trying to outline this so I don't lose it later. Just then this should go here. Okay, and value is nothing more than sharp contrast, and line is nothing more than a sharp value change. Line does not exist. So he says to himself. And then the scythe is like kind of cut off by this weird dark cloud. I'm not getting the angle on this scythe quite right, but that's okay. Yeah, okay, I like how that's kind of turned out. I think that can also go darker too. I'm focusing way too much on detail here. I should really just be doing a general value study. I like this. This is the bloom is very ghosty. I'm really actually liking how that kind of incidentally worked out. This might F up here, but I'm going to darken this part of the scythe, and I'll keep the rest of it light. So yeah, and you know, it seems weird just to be like, oh, getting up in the morning is hard, and it's a nihilistic difficulty, amongst other things, I think, and it is what it is. But the frustration, I guess, that hit me this morning was, in a way, it was very helpful because I was just frustrated at my inability to be disciplined with myself for a moment. And it's not the first time, excuse me, that I have felt that level of frustration at myself. I think the difficult part, and for me, I guess why I'm thinking so much about this is because I don't think I've ever woken up and been like, let's go. The dawn of a new day. That's what I aspire to. But I don't think that's ever really happened to me. So now I gotta wait a little bit because I want these lines to dry. What do I want to bolden here? There's the handle. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. I'm not sick, but I think it's the cold air just really getting me. Yeah, so I've never just, to memory, jumped down and be like, let's go. The day is the day. It is the dawn of a new day. There are times when I have felt motivated, dare I say. Yeah, I don't want a hard line here. I like this ethereal look. I do want a hard line on the scythe. Maybe like, yeah, okay, cool. But yeah, ideally I would have had this door, all of these doorways kind of valued, and then this would be blurred on top. So maybe I can go over this and then try to bloom it still. There's hope is what I'm trying to say. So now I need to outline these doors, but they can't be as dark, or these columns. I'm not great at that. I'm trying to explain what I'm thinking, sort of, to reflect. But anyway, I digress. See, that's not good. That's too thick. The line weight should be the heaviest up front. Anywho. I'm thinking in line, which is okay. It's unavoidable for me at this point. I'm not going to worry too. This door frame is it's too big. Okay. Yeah, so I guess the frustration over time is, hey man, just like get up. I know that I want, like, I think one of the most motivating things that in my life, or to be more specific, one of the things that has pushed me the most, just in general, is the fact that I have a video from when I was 17 being like, man, I just want to make a game And the fact that I constantly have attempted to get better at art over and over again, and I have constantly been derailed for one reason or another. Um, and I that frustration builds because I think when I lost a bunch of weight, it was that was actually maybe the one of the few things that was not frustration motivated. But there was still a sense of like, dude, just why can't I just stick with this? I'm gonna blow my nose. It's like, oh man, just like stick to the plan, just do it. And I think that's to me where the self discipline, not comes from, but that's why the self discipline is functional for me. I think because yeah, you can just sit there and be like, dude, okay, I'm sitting down, I'm doing the work now. And I think over time, discipline has become that in a lot of ways, especially for me. I'm darkening these now, but I should be going all the way through and then doing it. But the lines will get more and more scattered as we go on. I don't know why I like this like style of. Anyway. I was trying to do this in a curvilinear way, but it's kind of just become straight. Oh well. And yeah, so it's like when I'm disciplined, it's because the frustration is what gets me up and moving, right? It's what gets me to sit down and do the work. But I suppose one of the things that has been difficult. So, for example, mobility is one where frustrations got me because I've either injured myself or been like, dude, come on, like be more like touch your toes, bro. Why can't you? How can you still not touch your toes? It's like, yeah, oops. A little embarrassing. Slow work in progress. But then I do a bunch of exercises and then I get consistent and then my flexibility's decent and then my mobility's even better. And then I stop. And the discipline, it's like it doesn't have anything. It doesn't. It can't. There's nothing for it to fight anymore, if that makes sense. Excuse me. I guess these edges have to become softer as I go down. And I'll just kind of do this. And then let's make sure this flame, has its own outline here. Where do I want the brightest parts to be? I would try to use masking fluid, but I'm not going to bother. So I'll just try to outline, I guess. That'll be a light part. That'll be a light part. Just gotta kind of accept that maybe this will work. Maybe it won't. Probably won't. That'll be a light part. That'll be light. And then we'll do one more light part to make it odd. That'll be a light part. Okay. Oh, this is too symmetrical. Not going to be a light part. Make this a light part. Cool. So then we'll just color everything in between. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so with mobility, it's just like, and then because I'm not frustrated, it's like the discipline doesn't have anything to fight. And so it's harder for it to maintain. The problem is, and I think the last maybe year or so, I've been trying to not be disciplined. And I think that's just turned into having to redefine discipline. Because it's not really fun for everything to have to be, no, come on, you said you do this, you got to do it. That kind of works when you're battling frustration because it's an enemy that you can see, if that makes sense. And I know I want to get better at art, so I'm sitting down and forcing myself to really try and improve, taking classes, making sure I'm doing homework, etc., etc. This is actually kind of in the foreground, so let's get more ink on there. And so yeah, it's like, well, I want to be good. You got to put in the work. But with things like, jiu-jitsu competitions, yeah, you got to put in the work. That's never not going to be true. But then there are times when you want to sit down for art or just go to a class and not really worry about constant improvement, I guess. Okay, this should definitely be darker than the flame. And I think, just sitting down to draw here, yeah, I'm finally like knowing how to think about certain things, but I don't always want to do that. And I think that's okay. I just don't know how. So much of what I've kind of come to do, maybe one exception is YouTube, honestly, but so much of what I've come to do is because of who I wasn't and who I guess see myself being. I being an artist who cannot, I was going to say bad artist, but I'm going to avoid that. I'm going by my definition in a way. It's like, I want to be an artist who can take these images out of his head, draw 20 thumbnails, do another thumbnail a few months later, and then have something come out of it. I think that to me is the goal with art and everything. This is a horrible flame, speaking of good art and bad art. It's not really a flame. I don't know how you draw a flame in black and white. Also, with just ink and watercolor to an extent too, you kind of have to, not kind of, you do, have to consider drawing, what you're not drawing is just as important, if not more so, than what you are. And it's very perplexing. This is not a flame. I should have left the brightest parts to the outside. I'm an absolute buffoon. What is this thing? Anyway, maybe I can just turn this into a Torterra. Pokemon Pearl Nuzlocke. When is that episode going up? Make it a little darker. And yeah, I don't want to, I think I need to be better at separating these things. I don't want to go to class and work on that competitive spirit. That's what the competitions are for. When I'm doing art homework, yes, that's a good time to push yourself and be disciplined. But make sure you're doing stuff like this, just getting ideas out there and not. My goal here is to get an idea out of my head and see where I'm at. And what's nice is that it's evolving as I go. Hey, this bloom is nice. And I think, Bob Ross's good old happy accidents thing, it's not about whether or not something is an accident. It's just, I think to me, having been doing this like small writing project, I realize it's just about coaxing out what's on the page already. I know that to some, I feel like this sounds a little woo-woo, but is that a bad term? I don't know. I've never really thought about it. I guess here, I'm seeing brick, right? I'm drawing these lines, and all of a sudden it's like, well, let's do this. Let's create a huge kind of sense of brick texture here. And it's like, what is on the page that I have yet to bring forth? It's effectively a very concrete version of Pressfield's Muse. The great creation you're going to make is already out there. It's just up to you to bring it forth in a lot of ways. And that's kind of what's happening. And that's what I want to work on with these more fun pieces, where it, try the result just be, hey, what's on here? What am I kind of pulling out of the page? What is regurgitating itself with me as its instrument? And yeah, I think that's, I don't know. I almost said healthy, but it's good. And I guess the thing is, jujitsu, I can't quite view it in the same way. If you're around people or meeting someone for the first time, it's like, who am I? You don't need to determine that beforehand. You don't need an AI be like, hey, how do I act in these group of people? Because that removes the humanity from it. It's just kind of like, let yourself exist in that situation and then go for it. And I'm really straying from frustration here, but I think frustration is not maybe this is a good split. I mean, I split a lot of my life into subjective and objective, to be honest, but shocker, I know. What happens if I do this? Ooh, I don't hate it. Just like a little mid-tone for all the brick. Nice. Okay, we'll go in with a little bit more line. I think in the moment, when I'm competing and I'm thinking, oh, this is so frustrating. Like, just win, dude. Just like move. As I've spoken in the past, like that's part of my problem is I'm like, winning is the same as losing, and maybe competitive spirit and blah, blah, blah. But I don't want to do too much texture here. This is too dark. If I'm going to do that dark, I need to make this darker. I got a water cup over here. So in case you hear that, I apologize. Anyway, that frustration, like if you're working on, even if it's, I don't know, I feel like maybe it does have a home in art in some sense. But, if you're working on art homework and it's like, I just can't get this perspective, then I think programming is similar, at least for me, where it's like, okay, maybe that's a good sign to just like take a step back. Because sometimes the problem is solved with a break. But when it's a physical activity, and I don't know, I guess my problem is kind of mental with jiu-jitsu at the moment. That's interesting. I think in a way, frustration is, I like this. I like this thought. A lot of people in my life have said, stop thinking. Like you're thinking too much. An old manager, my therapist, like everyone. Is this going to give me, no, I was too soon. Ooh, I actually kind of like the little dry brush effect that's happening here. Not going to lie. I'm going to make this really dark. Not really dark, but darker in value, I think. Okay, I don't hate that. I think, oh, you know what? I like this. Because the light from the quote-unquote flame is like dancing up top. So that means I can probably go a little darker here. Yeah! See that? See that? I'm just scribbling, dude. It's the result, objectively, it's not great, but it's getting the image I want out of my head. I think I need a little more line back here. Make sure these bricks are getting smaller. But yeah, but frustration is perhaps that thing for me that just goes, like stop thinking, just do it. And I think, work included, given I work in, knowledge work, software engineering, and art, right? It's just like, just the frustration comes in. It's just like, just do it, man. Because once I'm started, it's not that bad. 95% of the time, I'm fine. Just once I've started. And I think that's, for knowledge work, that's where frustration can come in. It's just, dude, sit down and do the work. Even to some extent, it's like you want to do this, right? Like for this little fractured thinking bit, that was what was going through my head. I was like, oh, maybe I'll watch one more episode here and like just start painting. No, I wanted to record a fractured thinking on frustration, and I'm just going to do it while I'm painting, / inking / whatever this is. I don't know. We're hitting 35 minutes, so I should probably wrap up soon because I do need to get to work. But it's a strong, I want to make these lines thicker. motif. I don't know what word I'm thinking of here. I think these can be the same kind of darkness, so to speak, and then just different thickness. But maybe that's why, frustration has its place in a jiu-jitsu competition, because it's not... Frustration is, I guess, what something my coach says. It's just like, pull the trigger. Like, don't stop aiming, I guess that's my interpretation of it. It was stop aiming and just pull the trigger. I think he largely spoke about it in terms of like seeing it, but pull the trigger, sit down and just do it. And I'm just literally, this is why I do fractured thinking, I guess. But as I am talking more and more about this sense of frustration, I'm realizing that for some, motivation is what gets them up and about. Okay, are these hardwood doors? I could see them being hardwood doors. These lines need to be real thin, though. I don't know why death is hallway is hardwood. I don't know how to do hardwood, so texture study idea. But anyway. For some people, motivation is what gets them up. And then when you start doing it, I really believe, no matter who you are or what your incentive is, once you just start, it's game over for your demons. Once those words start flowing from the page, and you're able to hit that flow state, you're in. You're locked in, right? There's lines on hardwood, right? I guess I kind of want to wash these too, and so as we get back, less texture. That's the key, honestly. It's just let the brain fill in the rest. Literally just lines at the end, I kind of thought maybe plaques could go above here, but I don't know. So yeah, maybe for me, motivation is what I need to not abandon. I do get motivated. I think everyone can get motivated. It's just elusive to me, because for so long, as I was kind of mentioning earlier, I've been running away from who I was, not out of a sense of disliking myself, but I wanted to be someone else. And I guess for one reason or another, it became easier to push against something than to run towards something else. Like jumping is easier when you push off the ground, not when you try to get high up. The more you focus on pushing off the ground, the higher you will go. It's the same thing objectively, but it's the way you think about it. And that's the way I'm trying to communicate this idea here. So I'll wait for this a little bit to dry. I'm going to make these lines a little darker. Will he regret this? Maybe. These ones can be thicker. These ones don't want to be thicker, but they do want to be darker. Because you want to pull the attention to the front. What are they saying? Shoot. I feel like I had a good thought going there, but yeah, running away from things. And I wanted to foster running towards something for so long, and I really am now, just kind of through frustration. It's like, what's the transition point? If you're a vocalist, there's like the low voice and the high voice, and that range in the middle. I'm going to do something terrible, so I apologize in advance, but it sounds like this. So I'm going to go from low voice to high voice. Do you hear that, like, huh? In between there is mid voice, where how I learned it vaguely a couple years ago. Your vocal cords kind of like merge a little bit. Not merge, but the high voice and the low voice have to meet in the middle, and you can, in theory, use that. And first of all, I don't know how to do that. But second of all, like, what if frustration is what gets you from one place to another? What if frustration and motivation are cut from the same cloth, if you will? And I kind of like that idea. So I'm going to try to do this like draping cloth, but no promises, man. One thing I discovered about ellipses is that you'll always see a little bit around the corner. And so that helps with all circular things for me. Granted, not an artist, so take that with a grain of salt. But, well, I guess we're all artists. I don't know. The light's coming from the flames. Okay, so that's the left shadow now. So just trying to use that as a kickstart. And that's all it needs to be. I think when, if I'm in the middle of a role at a competition and I'm there and I'm stuck, I don't have to let frustration take over, but I should let it help me get out. And I think, I don't know, I guess speaking about lack of control earlier, is that's what would always really bug me. I'm always afraid of getting frustrated and hurting someone. Granted, that's not what happened the other day when my knee was getting loose. I think I was definitely frustrated at myself for various reasons, but it's not like I was losing control with frustration, as I have kind of felt in the past. Granted, it's been a very long time, but yeah. And so I guess I'm kind of losing track of what I'm trying to say here, but yeah, I want this to blend more. I wanted it to look like the scythe was going into the doorway, but I don't quite think I've achieved that per se. And it's hot pressed, so pulling the ink off the page is not really gonna work. It's just not as clean as I would have liked. I think I also want death to be darker, but I think I can go darker here with just like a wash over. If I do this though, be careful, Mark. Don't try to put more line in. So yeah, just getting frustrated, using it to start the engine is probably the best way to put that. I don't really hate that point of view in a lot of ways, because it allows me to use the frustration, because it's a feeling, it's there for a reason. I think I'm also, anxiety often gets me too. And it's like, well, you got to ask yourself, don't think about it too much. Take it from me. Where does it come from? Why is that anxiety there? Why are you constantly on the lookout for what people are thinking about you or saying about you? What's going on? Like, what does it exist to help? I think for me, this is, not mental health advice. This is just something that's helped for me in the past. It's helpful to think, like, what is its purpose? And can I, if I can specify the purpose of my anxiety, can I then work with it a little closer, and be better at, keeping an eye out for what it shouldn't be activating for, so to speak. And I think frustration is the same. I'm frustrated. That's too dark. Darn. I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated about, there we go, that helped, my inability to just like be competitive in a way and move when I'm, on bottom and I need to pull a sweep, or I'm standing and I need to pull the trigger on some sort of takedown. I kind of like that this gets darker here. That seems to work a little bit. This is a drastic change in value, but I don't mind it. I mean, it's kind of supposed to be, right? Well, I've always been left with like a surplus of ink when I'm done painting, but I'm kind of, it's only been 45 minutes. It's kind of wild. Yeah, that just brought some things together right there, man. Whew! That was clean. Honestly, make it even darker. yeah, so, frustration to pull the trigger to get myself to sit down. But what you don't want is to keep going with that level of. I guess I need to. You don't want to be annoyed. I don't want to be annoyed at anything. I think that's what also. Just being annoyed is terrible feeling in a lot of ways. Do you see that? That was kind of cool. Kitties meowing. Okay, this might be a little too dark, but I don't hate it. I'm not gonna lie. I also want to go over death one more time. Yeah. 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 That's what I'm talking about, dude. Right there. Oh, beautiful. And then just a little bit to get some contrast. We'll make that line clear with that doorway. Ooh, is he gonna darken the door? I think he's gonna darken the doorway. That didn't work. I don't love that. That's okay. Yeah, you just don't want it to, turn into annoyance. You don't want to. I don't want to injure anyone. That's too much. That's not what competing is for. That's not what the situation calls for. And so if you need to be frustrated to get out of a situation, sure, but you don't want to totally lose control and not be able to gain it back. So I like that idea. Using frustration to sit down and start in this realm of knowledge work or something that I guess where the mind is more of a primary system, so to speak. Just kind of implying a small pattern here. I don't want to draw the eye toward the rug, but I could also kind of create a pattern to draw the eye back in, because in theory I want the composition here to eye to go down and then come back. That's kind of the goal. So, oh well, I kind of worked it up a little bit, but effectively just making this a literal arrow. It's kind of a banger soundtrack. Cool. We'll make this a little darker. Not to draw the eye too much, but I think it just needs a little more form. Yeah, honestly, I guess I've come to the conclusion I was seeking with this fractured thinking. That frustration, I don't want to keep villainizing it because I think it's with me, it's unavoidable, and that's okay. I just need to find out where its place is. Find out where it helps me. I can't tell if I like that death is like kind of hidden. The scythe jumps out, but anyway, that'll be it. I'm gonna wrap this up. Try and get this for the thumbnail. Yeah, I don't know. If you're watching it or listening, curious as to your thoughts. Like, what other negative emotions can kind of motivate you? I think despair was one of mine for a while. I think anger is a big one. The anger can be dangerous. Uncontrolled anger is the definition of chaos. Or I guess, to me at least, consuming anger is okay. But if you let anger consume you and turn into rage, you're screwed, brother. I guess I should have kept this taped because I wanted to do a watercolor version with just like a brown monocolor, but I want to undo this because it's really satisfying to see the edges come clean like this. Cool. I don't hate it, man. I don't hate it. One of these days, I will attempt to say that I am content with my results and that I enjoy the results and I like how it turned out. But for now, not hating it's enough. I got my butt up. I worked on it. You somehow sat down, listened to 50 minutes. If you drew something, hop on the Discord. Show me what you painted or drew or whatever. I don't know. This was kind of cool. This fractured thinking went better than I thought. But yeah, have a good one. And as always, don't forget to stay awesome. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.